Público, ¿están listos? Bring it in, bring it in, bring it in. Wow.
Mine for Fantastic Four, and it's not about his acting.
I think I speak for the entire Marvel community and for those in the Marvel community that are too afraid to admit it when I say this, but as soon as we all saw Julia Garner's female Silver Surfer, we all thought the exact same thing.
We always ask, man, why does this keep happening? Why does Pedro Pascal keep getting cast? Why do executives in Hollywood keep casting Pedro Pascal?
Julia Garner, yeah, people are big mad that she's the new Silver Surfer. So let's break it all down because the film's not even out yet and the internet is in full meltdown mode.
You got me. But seriously, me and you know what we gotta do. We gotta talk about all the nonsense that's been going on around the female Silver Surfer.
Marvel ain't just dropping the ball anymore. They're launching it straight into orbit and acting like it's all part of the master plan. This so-called grand reset is turning into a full-blown meltdown. Now they're scrambling with Fantastic Four, First Steps, a movie that was hyped up to save the franchise, but might actually finish it off.
Público, ¿están listos? Bring it in, bring it in, bring it in. Wow.
Queremos mucho a todos.
Emergency reshoots just weeks before its release? Brutal test screenings leaking everywhere? It's chaos. And leading the charge is Pedro Pascal, who's reportedly flipping out because Marvel chopped out his emotional scene. And get this, his big moment was a 6-minute monologue about being a dad, right in the middle of a cosmic-level argument. He even refused to shave off his mustache for the flashback scene.
Pedro Pascal mustache.
You know what? I'd like to talk about the mustache. I think today's the day. You see this? This is powerful.
Clean shaven 5 days ago.
This is powerful facial. This is facial hair. This looks like you're undernourished. I actually was doing a play before Narcos started shooting, and the boss came to see the play, and he was like, "Keep the stash," and I was like, "Okay." And now people are like, "Don't ever get rid of your mustache. You look like my grandmother without it."
You'd think this was satire, but nope, it's real. But that's not even the wildest part. That same scene had a gender-swapped Silver Surfer floating around mid-space, giving a long-winded lecture on emotional labor, while Reed and Sue were going at it about who's the better parent. That was supposed to be the movie's emotional high point. But instead, the test audience burst out laughing.
A lot of fans were really surprised to find out you were playing a Silver Surfer. Throughout the process, I wondered if there was anything that really surprised you about your role in the project.
I mean, just how big it is. It's such a big universe, and I feel so grateful that I just get to be like a little part of it, to be honest. And yeah, everybody on that job, I think the casting of the four is phenomenal, and they're so wonderful, and Matt Shackman's amazing. So I'm very excited. Yeah.
How did Marvel go from top-tier superhero storytelling to a $200 million laser-filled therapy session? And right at the heart of it is Pedro Pascal, trapped in a creative mess so bad even diehard fans are asking, what in the world happened to the MCU we all used to love?
David Tennant wanted to play Reed Richards, but Marvel picked Pedro Pascal instead. At London's MCM Comic-Con, Tennant shared his hope to star as Mr. Fantastic in the Fantastic Four, First Steps. He praised Pascal, saying, "If it has to be someone, I'm very happy it's Pedro Pascal." Now fans are counting the days to the film's July 25th release, excited for this new take on the Marvel classic. Could Tennant have taken the superhero role to new heights? Well, the wait is on. Fantastic Four hits theaters soon.
July 25th, 2025. That's the day Marvel circled with red hot ink. The big comeback, the grand revival, the moment where everything was supposed to flip. But now, it's looking like it might just crash instead.
You think Fantastic Four would be high fives then?
And that is partially because Marvel's recent track record in the box office, right, with Thunderbolts, and plus the Fantastic Four has not been a strong IP in the theaters thus far. So factoring all of that in, I do think Fantastic Four is going to perform a little bit worse.
So both would be a failure then.
I don't consider them failures.
That would be,
I don't consider them failures. If they don't make $1 billion, that doesn't mean they failed.
You said 5. That's a failure.
I don't think that's a failure.
If you look at the track
money.
record of their movies, that would be bad.
Fantastic Four. First Steps wasn't just another Marvel flick. It was supposed to be the foundation for the entire next era. A brand new timeline, fresh tone, and a full reboot after disasters like Eternals, The Marvels, and Quantumania. But instead of a bold comeback, fans are watching this thing unravel in slow motion. This movie was meant to be Marvel's grand slam, and it's already being compared to the 2015 Trainwreck Fan Four-Stick, and there's not even a trailer yet. That's how bad the buzz is.
Fantastic Four, the return of the MCU. What? Oh my god. They made Invisible Woman a girl this time on a team that contains 3 other men. I just can't believe it. Marvel has gone full wokey-yoki again. Like, bro, I don't understand the rage debate here. Are you upset Sue Storm may be the leader of the Fantastic Four? Are you upset Silver Surfer, the character everyone around the world totally cares about, is a woman now? Like, you would think that these woke YouTubers would be happy that they got what they wanted, a full-blown Fantastic Four with gender and skin-accurate actors, but even that, they somehow try to finesse wokeness into it.
Leaks from inside the studio paint a rough picture. The script is a bloated mess, confused and scared to even lean into its comic book roots. There's no heart, no spark, just a pile of character moments that feel like they're checking boxes on a diversity checklist instead of telling a real story. Reed Richards? He's not a genius, he's just drained and mopey. Sue Storm? Not strong, just distant. Johnny Storm? Forget fiery, he's barely in the movie. And Ben Grimm? He's just there, like a leftover prop someone forgot to move. There's zero chemistry, the stakes make no sense, and the vibe jumps from wild cosmic adventure to weird family drama with no warning.
They're really stepping into, I think, the essence of what this comic is, and the original Marvel family. We are about to start filming on Monday or Tuesday, one of those days. We'll say us. Us.
We'll say that the 1960s are pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
This is Marvel's first family. We have 4 amazing actors. They've bonded. They are a family already.
Pedro is one of the best actors I've ever witnessed and worked with. So who could possibly be better to lead this movie?
Vanessa Kirby is my assassin. She's
That's not gonna
a killer. Yes, it will. Yes, it will. With Vanessa Kirby and Pedro Pascal.
It's also the world. It's a completely new world.
We're going into an era where the comic was born. Isn't that exciting?
This was supposed to kick off Secret Wars, bring mutants into the picture, and reset the whole MCU timeline. Instead, it's turning into a creative black hole, dragging what little fan loyalty remains down with it. And here's the kicker, Marvel knows it. There's no victory dance happening behind those studio doors, just frantic damage control. And believe it or not, the chaos off camera is even messier than the disaster happening on screen. Behind the scenes, Marvel's so-called rebirth is being held hostage by a mustache.
Once we got the Fantastic Four cast, many people were skeptical on Pedro Pascal playing Reed Richards. However, just recently, a video got out on how Pedro memorizes his lines for his upcoming projects, and now people are switching up on the casting or actually liking it.
I bet I could find and show you like the psychotic example, this physical example that I have now that I have to do to learn my lines.
What do you got there, Pedro?
So this is this like psycho first letter of every
gibberish.
Oh, I use that you do next to the.
You just use the first letter of each word, and in kind of these sort of like towers, these like columns, I guess. And then it's this very tedious way of like making yourself learn the line. If you're in a scramble and trying to sort of like learn text really quickly.
This is giving Reed Richards vibes. Yeah, Marvel cooked. He's gonna be a great Mr. Fantastic.
Yep, insiders are saying Pedro Pascal, cast as the legendary Reed Richards, is at the center of a wild standoff over a flashback scene where he was supposed to look younger and clean-shaven. Marvel's fix? Just digitally erase the mustache. Simple, right? But Pedro wasn't having it. Word is, he flat out refused, claiming that the mustache was part of his identity and that shaving it off would mess with the emotional continuity of his character. Emotional continuity? This ain't Shakespeare. It's a superhero movie. But Pedro was serious. He believed the scene where he pours his heart out in a teary monologue about fatherhood was the soul of the whole film. He called it his Tony Stark in Endgame moment. Marvel didn't agree. The speech landed right in the middle of an already overloaded cosmic scene, and test audiences couldn't take it seriously. They laughed, and not in a good way. So Marvel cut it, hoping to clean up the mess. That's when Pedro reportedly snapped. Sources claim he called up Kevin Feige directly, demanding the scene be brought back. When Feige didn't budge, Pedro tried to escalate the fight all the way to Disney CEO Bob Iger, saying cutting the monologue wasn't just a bad call, it was an attack on the character and even on his legacy. All this over a mustache and a speech. This wasn't just an actor voicing concerns. It turned into a full-blown battle over ego, image, and who really controls the story. But Marvel's drama didn't stop there. Right behind Pedro's meltdown came an even louder controversy, one that fans definitely weren't ready for. If the mustache sparked the flame, Juliet Garner's Silver Surfer lit the whole thing up. Hardcore fans expecting the classic, brooding Norrin Radd got hit with a curveball. Marvel gender-swapped the character and renamed her Shia, supposedly as a wink to controversial actor Shia LaBeouf. Gone was the lonely, poetic space wanderer, and in came what early viewers are calling a cosmic therapist in chrome. So, instead of a mysterious herald of Galactus, we've got a floating space counselor dishing out deep talks mid-battle? Fans are not vibing with it. Garner's version of Silver Surfer doesn't glide in with power. She floats into scenes mid-argument just to drop deep-dive speeches on gender roles, emotional labor, and cosmic-level parenting theories. One scene in particular, a jaw-dropping 6.5-minute monologue where she interrupts Reed and Sue's heated debate about their kid. Test audiences were left stunned, and not in a good way. People didn't know whether to cringe or laugh. Some even thought it was satire. But nope, Marvel was dead serious. They actually believed a shiny space traveler giving a lecture on identity politics during a family meltdown would hit home. It didn't. Early reactions slammed it as preachy, awkward, and totally off the mark. It felt more like a late-night college seminar than a moment in a blockbuster superhero movie. Even insiders are now admitting it was a massive misstep to pin such a crucial scene on a message that heavy and forced. Marvel wasn't just trying to update Silver Surfer, they were betting the whole heart of the film on her. This was supposed to be a bold reimagining, something fresh to modernize the classic vibe. But instead, it pushed away both die-hard comic fans and casual moviegoers. And when the backlash started flooding in, Marvel made a move that turned the situation from bad to explosive. They doubled down. By the time test screenings kicked off, the studio still believed they had something brave, something groundbreaking. But when the lights came up, the crowd wasn't clapping. They were laughing. Out loud. Sources from those early showings said the vibe was straight up awkward. People were confused, squirming, and even hostile. One person described it as like watching a BuzzFeed think piece with a $200 million budget, while another called it a Marvel parody just without the self-awareness. It was supposed to be powerful, but it played like a punchline. Julia Garner's Silver Surfer didn't just miss the mark, she got roasted in early feedback. Viewers called her performance stiff, robotic, and straight up emotionless. One report even claimed people in the audience were whispering, "Is she reading cue cards off a green screen, but the real gut punch?" That was saved for Pedro Pascal. His fatherhood monologue, meant to be the film's emotional grand finale, ended up drawing laughs. What was supposed to tug at hearts came off like a drawn-out lecture that totally killed the mood. Instead of feeling moved, the audience was chuckling through what should have been a tearjerker. That was the breaking point. Marvel stepped in and started cutting. Pedro's entire monologue? Gone. The Silver Surfer's cosmic TED Talk? Chopped. But it was too late. The damage had already sunk in. The test screenings didn't just show flaws, they pulled back the curtain on a creative vision completely disconnected from what fans want. While Marvel scrambled behind closed doors to patch things up, they missed a major red flag. This wasn't just a flop in the making. It was a full-blown industry warning. After the screenings crashed and burned, Marvel didn't say a word. No statement, no spin, they went silent. Press events were suddenly postponed. Cast interviews pushed back with no new dates, and the marketing machine, the one that usually kicks into overdrive months before release, dead quiet. And that silence, it wasn't accidental, it was planned. Insiders say Marvel slashed the promo budget and launched emergency edits just weeks before release. The first teaser trailer, rumor has it there's zero dialogue, completely stripped down to hide any trace of those infamous scenes. Instead of hyping up the characters or the plot, Marvel's just trying to bury the chaos and hope nobody notices what's missing. It's all just flashy chaos now, exploding planets, dramatic slow-mo shots, moody music blasting in the background, all smoke and mirrors to cover up the disaster underneath. Inside the studio, Marvel execs are reportedly locked in near-daily crisis meetings, scrambling to stitch together a story before this thing hits theaters. Test screenings hit so hard, they've triggered full-blown rewrites, emergency reshoots, and rushed CGI touch-ups. But insiders aren't calling it fine-tuning anymore. They're calling it damage control. One source put it bluntly. It's like gluing feathers to a sinking ship. And it's not just fans bracing for a flop. Marvel itself knows this might crash hard. We're not just talking about a box office letdown. We're talking about a reputation meltdown that could seriously shift how people see the entire MCU moving forward. This ain't some regular marketing delay, it's a straight-up retreat. What happens next could decide if the franchise limps into the next phase or face plants for good. And the wildest part? It's all happening again. Almost 10 years after the epic flop that was 2015's Fantastic Four, or as fans still mockingly call it, Fan-4-Stick. That movie tanked because of a rookie director, rushed production, and a studio that didn't get the comics. But this time, this is Marvel Studios, this is Disney, the same team that built the most unstoppable cinematic empire in history. And somehow they're on the verge of repeating history, but with way more at stake. This collapse, it's hitting different because no one thought this team could fumble this bad. They had years to prep for this, an unlimited budget, every top-tier resource at their fingertips, and access to some of the most iconic characters in comic book history. And still, somehow, Marvel managed to crank out a movie so lost, so creatively drained, that even the biggest haters of Fan-4-Stick are starting to say, well, at least that one didn't have space lectures on gender identity. Because say what you want about Fan-4-Stick, it was a disaster, no doubt. But it knew what it was, a failed superhero flick. This new version, First Steps, tries to dress up its emptiness in buzzwords and fake emotional weight. They piled on themes like parenting stress, social roles, and cosmic self-awareness. But none of it lands. Not even close. Instead of excitement, we get awkward finger-pointing. Instead of wonder, we get lectures. And instead of Reed Richards building insane tech to save the universe, we've got him in deep talks about his emotional limits while stroking his mustache. You can't make this up. It's not just a misfire. It feels like a slap in the face to the fans who grew up loving Marvel's original first family. The Fantastic Four were the blueprint, the ones who kicked off the whole legacy. And Marvel Studios had one job, bring them back in a way that honored all that history. But instead, they treated the comics like some outdated problem to fix, twisting everything until it barely even resembled the source material. And here's where it really stings. This wasn't some accidental swing and miss. The team behind it swung with pride, confident they were making something revolutionary. Smug, even. Writers' room leaks claim the early drafts leaned even harder into preachy social metaphors. Full scenes dedicated to parenting theories, relationship dynamics, and gender politics were baked into the script from the jump. It wasn't until the screening disaster that studio execs finally forced rewrites, slashing whole segments to save what they could. But by then, the damage was done. The core was already rotten, and no amount of editing could clean up the mess underneath. Even the casting shows just how far off track Marvel's gotten. Sure, Pedro Pascal's a hit in The Mandalorian and The Last of Us, but let's be real. He was never the right fit for Reed Richards. Reed's supposed to be cold, calculated, a little distant, but underneath it all, he's driven by deep love for his crew. Pascal? He plays him like a burnout life coach, constantly looking like he's about to give a TED Talk instead of building reality-warping gadgets. Vanessa Kirby as Sue Storm? Elegant, no doubt, but insiders say her chemistry with Pascal is flatlined. Zero connection. Meanwhile, Joseph Quinn's Johnny Storm doesn't bring the fire. He fades into the background completely. And poor Ben Grimm, he's been reduced to a groaning, rocky punchline. This ain't a team, it's a bunch of strangers awkwardly pretending they've known each other for years. And that's the real heartbreak here. The soul of the Fantastic Four has always been family. Messy, emotional, sometimes chaotic, but filled with love. That's what grounded the comics. That's what made fans care. And that's exactly what's missing in this movie. Marvel isn't just repeating fan four-sticks mistakes, they're doing it with more confidence and even less connection to the source. At least Josh Trank's version had the excuse of heavy studio interference. This time, the studio itself is the problem. They had every opportunity to get it right. Instead, they took the lazy route, stack the cast with big names, stuff in surface-level messages, and hope cool costumes cover up the weak writing. But fans aren't falling for it anymore. The burnout is real. MCU fatigue isn't just a buzzword, it's happening. And Fantastic Four, First Steps could be the tipping point. Because if Marvel can't even get this team right, one of their most legendary, most beloved squads, then what's left worth rooting for? What kind of future does Marvel even have now? Secret Wars, X-Men, the multiverse? After this mess, those dreams are starting to look shaky. This isn't just a stumble, it's a full-blown red flag waving in plain sight, warning everyone that the once unstoppable studio might have totally lost the plot. If Fan Four-Stick was a disaster made by outsiders who didn't understand the legacy, then First Steps is something worse. A failure created by the very people who were supposed to protect it. And that leads to a chilling question. Was this always where the MCU was heading? At this point, it's not just about one bad movie. It's about what this movie represents. Fantastic. 4. First Steps is the symptom of a much deeper problem. A studio smack in the middle of an identity crisis. Marvel used to own blockbuster storytelling, hands down. Now, it's limping along like a zombie, powered by brand name alone and fumes of old nostalgia. The classic Marvel formula, it's gone. And whatever's replaced it, it's confused, desperate, and hollow. Back in the glory days, we had clarity. Clear heroes, real stakes, arcs that mattered. We watched Tony Stark evolve. We admired Steve Rogers because of his rock-solid values. Even Thor, the awkward alien prince, found his balance between power and humility. Now, the new generation of characters doesn't even know who they are. The stories feel less like adventures and more like PowerPoint slides built by marketing teams. And First Steps is the most obvious sign of that rot, trying to be deep but ending up lost. Instead of rooting the story in timeless themes, family, sacrifice, wonder, Marvel wrapped this film in trendy messaging that was already fading before the cameras even started rolling. The DEI push that once ruled corporate boardrooms is now being quietly rolled back across the industry. But this script, it was written right in the middle of that wave. So what we got was a Frankenstein flick. Trying to be profound, but landing preachy. Trying to be bold, but coming off performative. Even Marvel's own messaging is split in two. On one side, they're hyping this as some bold new direction. On the other, They're cutting dialogue out of trailers, hiding key scenes, and hoping fans forget everything they've already heard. That's not confidence, that's panic dressed up in CGI and silence. It didn't crash overnight, it crumbled bit by bit. But this feels like the edge, and Marvel's jumping off headfirst, hoping flashy CGI and fading nostalgia will somehow cushion the fall. But what do you think? Is this just a rough patch, or are we watching the full collapse of a cinematic giant? Is Pedro Pascal really to blame, or is he just the poster boy for something much deeper and more broken inside the machine? And should Marvel have stayed true to its roots instead of chasing every trending topic and trying to turn superheroes into sociology lectures? Drop your take in the comments.